Hey, everybody. Welcome to the channel. I imagine most people are going to be watching this on a replay. I know I've got a lot of Bronson fans out there, some of whom don't live in the United States. So hopefully I can get some eyeballs on this after the fact. Also, I don't know if you noticed that thumbnail. Unless I create a thumbnail ahead of time, it won't. I'm having problems editing a thumbnail. So it just had my generic thumbnail on there. I don't know what's going on. I was at least able to throw one up on Instagram with your sticker.
I saw it stuck to your head.
Yeah, I just stuck it to my head.
Yeah.
You got this. These are the things you have to do when you're home alone, So,
well, we use Canva for most of our thumbnails, so just a little heads up.
I got to get into that. I've looked at it. I really got to get into that. I have a
version.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's just I just got to sit down for an hour and do it. And I'm also I film on this a lot. My iPad. The sound's dead. The volume button is dead. So
oh no.
I'm getting more and more limited. I got to actually go the other way and explore some new technology.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're going to be talking about what I called in this scrawl there an unusual Bronson film, because I didn't want to really put a label on it until we get going, because it is unusual for sure. But anyway, my guests are the Newlydeads, and we've chit-chatted about movies a few times before. And do you just want to tell everybody about your channel and your website and whatever else you want to plug?
Well, you can find us at thenewlydeads.com. That's where we have our blog that we write. We've got a small business review blog, Coffinated. That's a coffee review. Got my movie review blog. Our YouTube channel stuff is linked through there, as well as our television show, Dollar Store Drive-In, that you can find on the Monster Channel, Tingo Television, The Vortex, and Other Worlds TV. We also have a podcast version of our show on Spotify and other fine podcasting directories.
What show is that?
Dollar Store Drive-In.
Oh, yeah, did you say that already?
And then our YouTube channel, you can find our Sinister Snacks, which is kind of what we started doing originally that kind of kicked this all off, as well as Coffinated reviews. Follow us around Code Orange stuff. And then we're also artists, and we go out and do actual events like pop-up markets and things. We'll be doing the Shopping with Serial Killers market here in December. So we are
busy.
Always busy.
Shopping with Serial Killers. That's
yes. Fun.
Sounds awesome. Yeah. The Dollar Store Drive-In. I think that's how we actually met, because I was doing Dollar Store Theater.
Yes.
And which the Dollar Trees don't really have movies anymore. I still have a little stack I could do. I need to go back and do some of those. But I love that. And it seems like without the whole, it seems like the Monster Channel sort of is growing a little bit again, and the roster's getting kind of filled out. I know our friend, our friend's friend, Raul Madblood's friend Nas,
right.
He has a show on there.
Yeah.
So
he brings the noise, that's for sure.
Yeah. He does bring the noise.
I was just at Dollar Tree 2 months ago and had like a fat stack of about 12 movies. So I don't know. Some of them still have some still laying around.
Yeah. I guess, there's a few around here that I haven't checked, but we had a few that closed. They closed and then they moved down the street. And when they reopened down the street, no movies. That seemed to be the pattern around here, which is a shame, a real shame. But we're going to get into it in a minute. Anyway, we got Jim's movie channel. Hey, Dan and the Dads, Professor Macabro, greetings and salutations. Heroic Waffles, my fellow Garden State resident. Hello. Hey, guys, what's going on? And Jim says, The White Buffalo, a WTF Bronson film. Yeah.
Indeed.
What is you guys sort of, how big are you guys super Bronson fans, or when you were growing up, were you big Bronson fans? Or
I think this was my first movie I watched with Charles Bronson in it, but
God.
On the other hand,
when I was just got out of college and I was working at a record store, one of my best friends, we were out browsing looking at movies, and he saw Death Wish, and he's like, "Have you ever seen that?" I'm like, "No." And this was 1998 maybe. And he's like, "I guarantee if you watch that movie, you're going to be hooked and you're going to be all about Charles Bronson." And I was like, okay. So I took the challenge, and about 34 movies later, after 30 days, I had a problem, and so I know his catalog. He's got like 165 film credits or credits on his
Mhm.
roster, and I've seen a large chunk of that. This is actually one of the few movies I haven't seen of his.
Yeah.
I used to have a lot of his stuff on VHS, and then as I transitioned over, that shrunk, and I'm now starting to kind of rebuild on Blu-ray. So yeah,
Yeah.
I'm a bit of a Bronson fan.
Now
Yeah.
you said you haven't.
Thank goodness for Kino Lorber.
Correct. Now I have seen it. Yes.
I just saw this one the other day, Rider on the Rain, and my friend, our YouTube friend, 101 Bronson, he's in the Netherlands. He's obviously from the channel name. He's a huge fan. He has a video that's like one of my reference videos, one of my go-to videos, because he ranked like 50 Bronson films, his top 50.
Wow.
I mean, it's he took out like ensemble movies like The Magnificent Seven and things like that. But one of the things, he's in the Netherlands, so one of the things that he pointed out was a lot of people kind of sleep on his European films.
Yep.
And you have to approach those a little differently, just like this one. Well, not exactly the same, but I guess what I'm saying is you got your Death Wishes and Stone Killer, Mr. Majestics, Hard Times. That's what people think of when they think of Bronson. I think.
Yeah, for his solo films for sure, but they don't think of like Violent Streets or what is it? The Man Behind the Door, or is it Rider in the Rain? I think.
Yeah, that's the one I just showed. Yeah. Very interesting film.
Which his European stuff definitely has a different flavor to it.
Yeah.
But you can't watch it without getting into that. And then when you get into his older stuff, like the Family of Cops series, where he's doing TV movies.
Yeah, right.
His career had a lot of variation for sure.
Yeah, I even got I ordered it from oldies.com last year in November, and I got it in like January. But I ordered Yes, Virginia, There Is a Santa Claus. He's in that. He's in a TV movie of that. I really wanted to watch it before Christmas, and I came like in January. But
you got it for this year.
Yeah. Definitely. I'm definitely gonna do it this year after I finish. I'm doing Chuck Norris November, so I'm doing a lot of Chuck Norris movies this month. But this is a. Oh no, this isn't a canon film. No, I was going to say. Well, of course they were canon. They were canon stablemates eventually as the 80s went on.
A lot of Golden Globus movies and a lot of films with J. Lee Thompson.
Yep.
Which this one was. I have to ask though, before we get into the actual film, have you dipped your toes into the Robert Bronzi pool?
Oh my gosh! So I have got the one. Death Kiss. I've seen Death Kiss. Yep. And then I got a Western of his. Oh my God, the Western. The thing with him is he looks like Charles Bronson, but he talks like Bela Lugosi.
Yeah.
So he's like the horses. Where are the horses? And it's like
well, sometimes they dub his voiceover in the earlier stuff, and he's like, "Hey there, Pally," and it's like that's not. If you heard him interviewed, he's like, "Hey, how you doing?" He's not quite that high, but he does have an accent.
Yeah. He does have kind of a high-pitched voice. I mean, Death Kiss was okay for a low-budget revenge deal. It wasn't too bad. That Western one, oh boy, that was rough.
Yeah, I've seen that. That was like To Hell and Back or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
And then there was he's got a lot of movies where they're like mockbusters. Like he's got Attack on Cell Block 99, but it's not Attack on Cell Block 99, or Death Kiss, which is the Death Wish thing, or he just had they're all riffs on the Bronson titles, but the movies themselves, like if it's a Western that I'm thinking of, is that the one that has the serial killer with the mask on?
No.
Oh.
No, this one had I know Michael Pare was in it.
Okay.
And it was just kind of weird, and it wasn't terribly exciting. And there were times when they were editing the action scenes. I was like, wait, is he over here or is he over there? I can't really tell what's going on. But, and then he's got a werewolf one coming out.
Yes, apparently. And you'll have to see that. He's such a nice guy, and I've gotten into his movies just because it's nice to see Bronson's face again. But yeah, they can be a little bit challenging.
Yeah, Professor says thoughts on Robert Bronzi, the bronze exploitation star, and then he says I want to see Bronzi versus Werewolves the movie. Yeah, definitely.
I'm in 100%. Let's go.
Yeah, the funny thing is, I just watched The Octagon with Chuck Norris. the guy that plays his adopted brother in that, I've always heard that one of the minor Bruceploitation actors, you got your Bruce Lee and then you got Dragon Lee. They actually tried a Bronson Lee for a couple movies. Well, that's him. I just watched him in a Chuck Norris movie, and I looked him up on IMDb, and I'm like, oh, that's Bronson Lee. I always wondered. I haven't seen any of those, but
I'm gonna have to look into that because I've missed that one.
Yeah, he's definitely one of the more the minor of the Bruceploitation actors. But anyway, this was Lee J. Thompson. I think this was like their second one, but then after this, they did like 4 or 5. I mean, Murphy's Law, Messenger of Death, a whole bunch. Oh. Yeah, what a career! Strange filmography for Lee J. Thompson too. Like Guns of Navarone to Happy Birthday to Me.
Well, don't forget Conquest of the Planet of the Apes, the best of the original franchise.
Yep.
Yeah. I like J. Lee Thompson's stuff, and I like his collaboration with Bronson. But yeah, his career, just like Bronson's was very like all over the place. Very varied career.
Yep, and we got Echo Cerro saying, "I came for the buffalo wings. Where are they at?" Well, they're gonna come at the end of the movie. You can have some animatronic buffalo wings at the end of the movie.
Well, and that's the weird thing about this movie. It was Bronson's last Western.
Yeah,
and you've got this kind of all-star cast in this pseudo like horror movie almost. It was bizarre.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, bizarre is one. Yeah, definitely. And I kind of remember my dad rolling his eyes at this, and he was like a Bronson fan, but he was not really a science fiction or horror guy. You know what I mean? There were very few movies because that's what I wanted to watch, and sometimes he would be in the room with me and he'd be like, oh God, Godzilla, but he kind of rolled his eyes at this one. I think he probably still appreciated it for the character actors and everything. But I think it's one of those things like years later, you can watch it and appreciate it for what it is if you go into it with the right frame of mind. Actually, we're gonna help everybody get in that frame of mind.
Right. Because I wasn't sure what to think. I just saw a clip of it with Bronson with the glasses on at the end of the bar in the gunfight, and I was like, oh, what's this? I need to see this.
Yeah.
And I got the title of it. I immediately bought it, and then I was like, we had a day off, and I'm like, you need to watch a Bronson movie with me. So we watched this one, and it was kind of a weird introduction for her, probably.
Yeah, it kind of. Yeah, definitely kind of. And this was apparently, if they had filmed the screenplay as it was, it definitely would have been rated R because there was like headshots and because they are using high-powered rifles and things. So it probably would have been more like Death Hunt, which is pretty, in terms of the violence, which is pretty violent. I mean, that's one I just saw recently for the first time. I enjoyed the hell out of that. But this one, the fantasy element is just so bizarre, and I'm tipping my hat. It's a Western fantasy. I don't know. Is that how you guys would describe it, sort of?
I almost put it in as almost a pseudo like Western horror film because it feels very spooky. Yeah, like the White Buffalo. You can't tell if it's like a supernatural thing.
Mm-hmm. And it seemed very supernatural.
And it's so huge. Plus the violence in this movie is, even though that they didn't go like over the top, it was still like, I was shocked at kind of where it was at. But I mean, I guess it was 79, so I guess it's not that far fetched. But for Bronson, I mean, his more violent stuff seemed to be a little later in his career.
Right. Once he gets like Death Wish 2 and beyond, for sure. Yeah. And apparently a lot of the Buffalo scenes were really filmed later because this is Dino De Laurentiis. So this is like sandwiched between King Kong and Orca. So there's giant creatures in those movies. And apparently this was going to be like almost like a psychological, like, is there even a buffalo?
Yeah.
Movie. And then, like studios often do, like, no, put a monster in it,
right.
Monster it up, that's what they do. And so a lot of those scenes were filmed later. And, they went that route, but apparently it was going to be like maybe a few flashes of white buffalo fur here and there. And it was going to be very psychological, but they kind of changed it around.
That's the way it felt. And that's the way I thought it was going. I kept thinking, like, is there even a white buffalo? And then, Yeah.
Is it a metaphor? You know?
Yeah, I thought it was like a metaphor for all the buffalo that they killed and
Yeah.
The buff wall, as it were,
Mhm.
that they
was
described.
crazy. Yeah.
But when it came charging through the indigenous people's village and just like wiped everybody out, I'm like, okay, this might just be a real thing and not just his hubris or his guilt, guilty
Right.
conscience or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. And I don't know. I know during the commentary they were talking about all the different things that Wild Bill Hickok did, and it's almost like you can't even, those guys did everything. They were, lawmen, and they did this and that, and I don't know that he was a buffalo hunter, but of course, you've got Clint Walker in this. His whole crew, they were buffalo hunters. And when I was watching the movie, when they come into the bar, the director was reading what the actual original book said. And he was like, when they came in, the smell made everyone part like the Red Sea, just from the buffalo skinning and being out in the woods and everything. So yeah, like, and apparently like, so the writer, Robert Saleh, I think, wrote this in like the 30s. He read like 70 books about that time period, and he just basically took little bits and pieces, and a lot of stories about people like Wild Bill Hickox and Crazy Horse. You don't even know if they're embellished or not.
Right.
Like he was saying, they found something out about there was some other guy called Wild Bill, and they attributed something to Wild Bill Hickox, and it was the lesser Wild Bill.
Tame Bill.
The knockoff, the Robert Bronzy Wild Bill.
Yeah,
right?
There you go.
But he took all these real and embellished characters and put them in the movie, and it's all, that to me, that's like sort of the fantasy part. Like, what if all these people met? Because apparently, like, they were in the two main characters, and I guess maybe we should explain a little bit. The two main characters are Wild Bill Hickox, who's seeing visions of a white buffalo at the end of his career. After he's changed his name, and he's seeking some anonymity. He's like tortured by these visions. And then you have Crazy Horse, the famous Native American chief, who's played by Will Sampson, who
also
loses
had to change his name. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really, that part was interesting. He loses his daughter in the white buffalo attack, and to restore his honor, he has to go fight the white buffalo. In the meantime, he changes his name to Worm, and apparently that's another thing they changed. They sort of front-loaded the identities of Wild Bill Hickox and Crazy Horse, so the audience knew who they were. Apparently, originally, you were supposed to get to the end of the movie and go, "What? That's Crazy Horse?" But again, the studio was like, "No, we
need to tell them how to.
Yeah, we need to push that up front and let everybody know who these people are." So that was pretty cool. I mean, I guess it was okay, but they were actually like in part of Dakota around the same time. There's no evidence that they ever crossed paths or anything like that. But some of the other characters were real characters. The guy that Ed Lauder plays was Thomas Custer. He was, Custer's younger brother.
Right.
And there was a legitimate beef when Hickok was a lawman, he arrested him, and Custer swore he would get revenge, and he never did. And of course he died at Little Bighorn. So that was that. But even the Martin, did you guys catch Martin Cove in the bar?
Yeah. I was like, hey, it's a young Martin Cove serving drinks.
Yeah, no, he was playing the guy, Jack something, that actually killed Wild Bill Hickox.
Oh.
Yeah, and apparently he had a few lines that were cut out, which I think they, like in the first season of Deadwood, I think they depicted that, right? Wild Bill Hickok in later years, and somebody came up behind him when he's playing cards and shot him. Yeah.
I love Deadwood.
So that was that character who we had met earlier. Yeah. But and I love the way that Crazy Horse changes his name to Worm.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. And apparently, like, all the handshakes that they were doing and all that stuff, the sign language, all that stuff was pretty authentic, which I thought was pretty cool. Yeah.
I thought, honestly, for the time period that the movie was made versus now, they were very like progressive with how they handled the indigenous people and how they handled the language barrier and how they handled the relationship between the two of them. Well, and even I forgot the other guy's name now. All of a sudden, I'm drawing a blank.
No, okay.
Yeah.
Jack Warden.
Yeah, Jack Warden's even his relationship, there was even that part which they could have gone really far over, which they went a little bit further than I expected, but was all handled
Some
pretty
choice language that he used.
right.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, I mean, you're going to have characters like that are using that kind of language,
Right.
because that's the time it was, and apparently, Crazy Horse, there was a section of what he thought was his territory, because so many people that came through the Bozeman Trail trampled over their cemeteries and their burial grounds and things. There was like a line in the sand where if you came into there, he was just shooting. That's all there was to it, So. Yep. There was some definitely some bad blood, but the Jack Warden character, who I think he was like 5 months older than Bronson. Like
I mean, Bronson was built like a brick crab house until he was dead. He was always like
amazing. I would have thought it was like at least 5 or 6 years older, but he was like 5 months older. Yeah.
Incidentally, the scene with Jack Warden in the bar where they're going down and they're in line to see the ladies of the evening.
Yeah.
The guy that was the one that was talking to Jack that sent him in to go meet with Martha or whatever her name was, his character is listed on IMDb as Frozen Dog Pimp. And I'm like, I hope this guy had some other work, because that's a really unfortunate credit to have on your. You're the what? You're a pimp for frozen dogs? No, that was the name of the bar.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, the Frozen Dog Pimp. Yeah.
And Custer's storyline was never resolved. Like,
no, not really. That was weird.
Hickok shot all the people up. He got help from the bartender, and then he cleared out. And I kept expecting him to come back at some point and like either shoot him or try and kill him, and then that would resolve, like with Crazy Horse killing the guy or something. And nothing ever came of it. Ed Lauder just took off, and that was it.
Yeah, that was kind of weird. I know Ed Lauder was in I think he was in King Kong, right? So maybe he had to go do some post-production work on King Kong.
Dino's like, get out of here, go to the other side.
Because they were like juggling people between those three movies. Like the guy that worked the guy that made the Buffalo, he did creature effects for the other movies too. Wow. So it's pretty wild.
Which Buffalo was surprisingly effective. Like,
it was,
considering the time frame and what they had to work with. It was really, really, really well done, and considering it's probably not the biggest budget either.
No, I don't think so.
I know.
Like apparently they built like a pretty decent animatronic buffalo, and the movement of it. See, here's the thing. Yeah, like I watched a movie. It was an Australian movie about a giant pig. The pig recently.
Razorback.
No, not the classic one.
Oh,
that's But even that, like some of those pig scenes were great. But then there's others where it looks like it's moving like a car. It's not like undulating. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's a lot of times a giveaway. This thing was really
like
moving like a buffalo, and apparently like when they had one leg that can come up, and they had some other things. They had the tail twitching back and forth, but then they took that out. But apparently that's in the one of the trailers somewhere. But, but back to the Native American thing. Yeah, all the casting on that was all authentic. They went to like when they went up against that one tribe, apparently all 15 members of that tribe in that scene were actually tribal members that really lived an authentic lifestyle.
Which again is surprising, because you figure like even like Bronson, in Chato's Land, he was, or Charlton Heston, playing a Mexican, it's like at that time period, it wasn't unheard of for somebody to play another, and so the fact that they all hired all indigenous people to play those roles kind of again was surprising to me. I was happy to see it, but for the time period, it just was like, okay, this is a different movie,
definitely kind of a different movie. Let's see. Professor Macabro says he brought a copy DVD of Death Hunt a while back. Lee Marvin and Carl Weathers. Super happy to find it. That's actually why I watched it after Carl Weathers passed. I was like,
oh yeah.
I was like, oh, Carl Weathers was in that, because I knew of the movie, but I hadn't seen it. So, and then he says, I haven't seen this one. Sounds like a Western version of Moby Dick, kind of, in a way.
Kind of, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I never thought about it, but it's a big, great white whale. But Death Hunt, one of my favorite things about Death Hunt is where Charles Bronson, like the whole cabin is on fire, and he like jumps on top of a pile of wood with a shotgun and just starts shooting or whatever. And I'm just like, that's my guy right there.
Yeah.
And he was probably like 78 years old at that point. No,
Right.
he was in his 50s, but still. What were you going to say?
Yeah, Mr. Majestic, when he jumps into the back of the pickup truck.
Yeah.
So I think I read a comment from someone like, how come he doesn't fly out of the truck when it's like bouncing up and down? And then he was like, he's Charles Bronson. That's why.
He shot a rocket launcher off the back of a motorcycle in assassination with Jill Ireland. And, come on, he can do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the Moby Dick comparison. It didn't really strike me until after that was said, but
yeah.
Totally. I think the like the Crazy Horse character is probably more like the Captain Ahab when you think about it, because of the personal loss, whereas the Bronson's just he's just operating on his tortured visions.
Yeah.
Is he Queequeg or is that going to be Jack Warden?
Oh yeah, I don't know.
If we're using that. Oh wait, is Bronson the whale in this version?
No. The white buffalo.
Which incidentally, I not to jump to the end, but after things have concluded, did they leave something behind? Because there's no way that the pack that he pulled off into the snow was that, because that buffalo had to weigh at least a ton, if not 2.
Well, apparently the animatronic was 9 feet tall, so
yikes.
I'm thinking like several tons, and it looked like, I mean, it looked like realistically that could have been the whole skin, but where was the rest of it? There should have been a steaming pile of guts and meat over there. You know what I mean?
Because it's not like they had a big feast, and ate it all. Because Jack Warden took off, and I turned to her. I'm like, so is that just the skin, or is it supposed to say that he took the whole thing back to his tribe, or what? And I'm like, there's no bones, and there's no way it all fit in there. So I was a little confused by that, because they made it seem like he was taking everything back after he, field stripped it and everything.
Right. Yeah, that was weird. I think on a practical note, the actual when the charging buffalo finally dies, apparently they just turned it off, and it stopped the galloping thing, and then just collapsed and slid, and kind of fell apart. So that was it. Like that was their one shot to do that. They couldn't resurrect it and have it gallop anymore, and it actually it looked pretty cool actually when they did it. On
the back of the DVD, it says that it looks like he will stop at nothing to obtain the sacred white pelt.
Okay.
So I think it's just the skin.
Yeah.
Which is sad, because
what do you do with the rest of it?
Yeah, you might as well use the rest of it, right?
Maybe he buried it in the snow and he's going to come back for it later.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe.
Well, apparently that was like a real thing. Occasionally somebody would see a white buffalo, and there was this must be something. And again, this is something that the author must have read. Like somebody did actually, some well-known Western figure did actually have a white buffalo head that he used to put on display, and eventually it burned up in a fire. But it wasn't unheard of to see one once in a while. That, of course, they didn't live as long. They weren't like camouflaged,
right,
when it wasn't snowy and
right,
but so yeah, that's just one of the many things. I think the director, he read so much about the time period that he was just like, throwing everything into a blender, kind of.
Well,
but
we probably should have said spoiler alert,
Yeah. Most people are like, what? But they're like, white buffalo with Charles Bronson, what's that?
Right. Now Laura said that she did some digging on was it Rotten Tomatoes?
Oh yeah, I was just like looking it up before we were going to talk or whatever, and at least the critics on Rotten Tomatoes didn't like it much, and it looked like it was like 50-50 with like audience score. Yeah. But they were giving it some bad reviews, like 17% or something like that, or it's pretty low.
Like Morbius level.
Yeah, look, now I can't see it. I mean, for me, I don't know how you guys feel, but to watch a movie like this that has not just Bronson, but Will Sampson, Jack Warden, Clint Walker, a bunch of other recognizable people, like
Kim Novak.
Yeah. like it would really have to suck for me not to get something out of it, to
Right.
you know. And then on top of that, I thought a lot of it was really cool.
Yeah.
But I love, I'm a big fan of actors and character actors and stuff. So to watch it now and to spot all these people and to listen to the commentary when he's talking about, like, there's a guy in the bar who had bit parts for years. Apparently, like, he was the guy after World War II that was, he knew Charles Bronson. He was the one that said, hey, you should use your GI Bill for acting.
Wow.
And that's the same thing that Jack Warden did too. So that guy's kind of a significant guy in the career of Charles Bronson,
Right.
And even though he was only like a bit player in movies, but I thought that was pretty fascinating.
What did he use his GI Bill for then, I wonder?
Yeah, right. I guess, I don't know. Hey, not everybody's Charles Bronson. You don't get into the big parts.
That is true.
Or not everybody's built like or looks like Clint Walker. So he was apparently a doorman who got spotted by a producer, and since he looked the way he looked, I mean, what did you think of him in this movie as Whistling Jack?
I thought it was a very imposing figure. And I was like, a little nervous as far as how that was going to play out, but I thought it was beautifully handled, and he kind of reminds me of like, I can't think of his name now. Tyler Mane, like he was that size of a guy.
Mm-hmm.
He's very imposing, even when he's just standing there not doing anything. But it was great casting. Like it was.
With the beard and just the eyes, the way he was staring, he was kind of a scary guy. Apart from this movie and a TV movie, Scream of the Wolf, which our buddy Raw Madblood did a Raw's recommends on. Those are pretty much the only two times he ever played like the bad guy. And I would have liked to see him go like at least once, go like full bad guy, be like the main bad guy,
right.
Not in a movie with a giant buffalo. It'd be like the main bad guy, like when Chuck Connors did Tourist Trap and he was Mr. Slauson, just go for it, because he was obviously a big scary guy. He could have really
Rory Calhoun as Farmer Vincent, or
Rory Calhoun,
I'm trying to compare somebody that, I don't know how tall Rory Calhoun was, but and then I'm thinking of Brian James, or the guy that was in Cobra that was the bad guy that I can't think of his name right now, that he always played.
Brian Thompson.
Brian, yes, but
now, Laura, had you maybe seen a few movies like The Magnificent Seven or The Dirty Dozen with Bronson, though?
No,
not even those. Okay, because Clint Walker's in The Dirty Dozen with Bronson. That's why
I lived under a rock.
Oh, okay.
I did give her an education as we were watching. I was telling her about Jill Ireland and their kind of romance, and telling her about how he had to change his name from Robert Chinsky, and how he had this long career, and he worked until he was 94, and when he passed away, and never stopped working the entire time he was alive, and told her about all the big ensemble movies. He was just in the right place at the right time. And it's weird because he had a speech impediment like Boris Karloff. He's got kind of a craggy face, and just he wasn't your typical kind of handsome leading man.
Right.
But something about it made him very believable, and very he just had this weird charisma that you just can't not look at him when he's on the screen.
And also Great Escape, another great ensemble movie. Yeah, Laura, you gotta treat yourself. Those are all
I gotta get on it. Yeah, I enjoyed watching this movie. It was weird.
Yeah.
But interesting. And being a fan of the show Deadwood, I was very like, like those characters and that character. I was like,
you know what? The scenes in the bar felt, they got the ladies of the evening behind the curtains right there. Yeah. Right there. And you got the guy perched up with the shotgun. It felt more like Deadwood than a typical Western of the time, where everything is a little more sanitized. It was and the commentary, the guy was saying a lot of times the first thing they would throw up would be like a saloon.
Yeah.
And a lot of times the construction was real shoddy. Sometimes there was a blow over in a storm, but it was just about, taking advantage of all those skinners and prospectors and just, making that money. It was like real down and dirty. This movie kind of felt like that, even though it had, even the inside scenes to me though felt a little bit like you were in a fantasy world for some reason.
It did. And
You know?
she told me as the movie was ending, she's like, "Have you watched Deadwood?" I'm like, "It's on my list of things to do," but and we've talked about watching it together. But most of our life is either horror themed or and somewhere in that vein, sci-fi, action, etc. So at some point we'll get around to that and get around to more of these, because I think I did watch one other one with you at some point. I just don't remember which one, whether it's the Stone Killers or Death Wish. We did a show on Death Wish at one point, but
I watched it.
maybe.
No,
I don't
probably
remember.
not. I'm always falling asleep on the couch or something.
Yeah, and the professor says people killing a one of a kind creature just because, that checks out. Some humans are kind of shitty. Well, there's also a revenge aspect because of a
I
certain
felt bad
scene.
for the buffalo.
Yeah.
I always feel bad for the animal.
Mm-hmm.
We were watching something else recently that was like the animal. Oh no, it was a pumpkin. We watched Carved. It's on Hulu.
It's a Hulu original movie, just came out this year, and by the end of the movie, we were rooting for the pumpkin.
Yeah.
Like,
even though they were the bad, like killer pumpkin or whatever.
It's like Frankenstein's monster, where it's kind
You
of a
always feel
tragic
bad for
figure
him.
where it's kind of thrust into a situation that it doesn't want to be in.
Yeah.
And,
I felt bad for the buffalo. I was like,
Yeah.
why? Stop killing all the buffalo.
Mm-hmm. I mean, he's so big. He's shaking the ground when he walks. He's crashing through like stone. It's kind of hard to be a giant buffalo in a regular sized buffalo world,
But I think he was a little pissed off that all of his non-albino looking buffalo friends were all being slaughtered.
Murdered.
And he was just trying to get his revenge because he was a bigger, maybe, I don't know, but yeah, we were like, man, all these people suck, and they killed the buffalo.
Yeah, I feel like he was the spirit of all the other animals.
Yeah, and they do, and now, and there is a scene where Charles Bronson walks by the giant pile of bones. So they actually built like a wooden scaffolding and then put the bones on top of it to make it look like a giant pile. But of course, there are historical photographs of gigantic pyramids of buffalo bones.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Well, it's like one of my all-time favorite movies, Dead Man, the Jim Jarmusch film.
Yeah.
And there's that opening scene with Crispin Glover and Johnny Depp on the train. And Johnny Depp, is unassuming and hasn't done anything wrong yet. So he's really kind of naive. And all of a sudden, all the trappers on the train all go to one side and start shooting out the window. And he's like freaking out. And Crispin Glover's like, oh, they're killing all the buffalo. He's like, and they're just shooting at him out of a train. Like, they're not going to be able to stop and pick them up.
You can't even go back and harvest anything. Yeah, right.
No, they're just doing it for sport, for the heck of it. And I'm just like, and I have to assume that that's historically accurate. I don't know, but based on the stories I've heard, as a kid growing up in like history and stuff like that, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. It's interesting. The music, apparently they canned the original composer. I think, what is his name? John Barry, I think they got. But there was actually like a buffalo theme. And when he walked by the pile of buffalo bones, they played it.
Oh.
So it was kind of cool. Like, it kind of, it did kind of tie in to the theme. I mean, like the revenge part of it, kind of, and then the professor says, great escape, great ensemble cast movie. And Echo says, Orc is a good one about an animal out to get revenge against humans. That's on my list. I've never seen it. I'm very familiar with the trailer. I remember the commercials when I was a kid. I've never seen it though.
Yeah, Orca's about a killer whale. Yeah,
it's good. And it also has Will Sampson is in that one too, apparently.
Oh,
yeah,
I like him.
Yeah, I like him. You know what I was going to mention in the beginning? You check out his artwork. He was apparently a really good artist. Yeah, yeah.
I will have to check that out.
Like Western paintings and things. Yeah, I know you guys are artists yourselves, but I knew him from my dad loved One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. So anytime that was on, he would watch it. And then sometimes later, of course, I'm a huge Clint Eastwood fan as well. Outlaw Josie Wales. So this movie and Outlaw Josie Wales were like back to back, and he was great. And then of course he would go on. He made a few more pretty decent movies. And then he was in what? Poltergeist 3, 2.
Well, I think it was 2, but
2.
I think it was 2, but I kept wanting to turn to Laura and go, juicy fruit. But I didn't think she'd get the reference. Because that's one of my favorites too. I love But Jack Nicholson is
Yeah.
the king, but
Yeah.
that movie is just amazing, and he's the best part of it, honestly.
Yeah, that scene, with the two of them, never had anything to say. It's great. It's great. My dad loved that movie, and apparently, I think he died like somewhat young, right in his 50s. Will Sampson.
He didn't see the life that he should have had, being the amazing actor he was. Yeah, he did. I want to say, it was late 50s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and actually, the in the commentary they were talking about all the things that he did in his life before he got into acting, and he was almost like a throwback to those early times when they did everything. He was like a Wild West show performer, and he did all kinds of things. But yeah, very very cool guy. To jump into movies like that and those three, movies like that with no acting experience,
right? Yeah,
some pretty amazing stuff. But
some people got it.
Yeah, great cast all around. I thought in this, that's for me was definitely one of the high points.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I definitely did not regret the purchase. I mean, I need to rebuild my Charles Bronson collection from what it was. So this is a welcome addition, but I had no idea what to expect because the returns on his films tend to kind of vary. Some are really good, some are questionable.
Mm-hmm.
But this one, I was thoroughly impressed, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a good way to get you introduced, because then you get a good one to start off, and then you're hooked. It's like heroin.
I was interested. Yeah, all the way through.
Mm-hmm. What did you guys think about? Did the fact that some of the scenes were obviously filmed inside, so the rock formation that he breaks through? I mean, it's looked like it looked like what it looked like. So he could break through, and then you had scenes where they would cut back and forth outside of the cave, real snow. Jack Warden standing at the entrance of the cave, fake snow,
Yeah.
And apparently they brought in like trees and stuff that died, so they would have to paint them green every day because they were in this gigantic soundstage. So did that bother you guys at all, or did it? For me, it kind of contributed to the fantasy sort of.
Yeah, I wasn't thrown off by any of that.
Yeah, once I was involved and I was into it, suspension of disbelief was fully in place, and nothing was going to dissuade me. I mean, because I kept looking for things with the buffalo. I'm like trying to find something to nitpick, and I couldn't. And I don't know whether it's just because I was so involved in the story, but yeah, that didn't bother me at all. And I have to agree that I feel like that probably contributed kind of to the fantastical aspects of the film.
Yeah, and they use that. They were using the split diopter a lot with and the middle part would be like kind of blurry sometimes around. As they were trying to focus on both. And in the commentary, they were like, they disguised that with a tree here, but there's a scene where Jack Warden moves and for his face is blurry. That those scenes almost seem kind of dreamy.
Yeah.
Because of that. And then of course you also had the obvious dream sequences. So it was just, to me, it's just kind of a weird fantasy.
Yeah.
And when those parts were happening, I kept going, did they need to get Orson Welles to tell you what to do? I mean, he knows how to do both, focus in the front and the back at the same time.
Yeah, like nice and crisp, right?
Why couldn't we do that? That was Citizen Kane. That was 40 years earlier or whatever.
Right.
Oh well, I did notice that though, and I hadn't put that in that context, but I could see that.
Yeah. But you're right though. It definitely also has that horror element for sure.
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah.
And
I like it when you got like a movie like 10 to Midnight with Bronson. It's like a serial killer. And it's a Lee J. Thompson movie with a kind of really twisted kind of a serial killer. And then like for
Andrew
Chuck,
Davis,
I
think wasn't that one? I think he was the killer, I believe, Andrew Davis, or maybe I'm getting it confused. Or no, it's I was going to mention that one because that's one of the few that I felt like was the next closest to being like almost a horror movie.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
was that one. It was a pretty dark serial killer movie.
It was pretty dark.
Whenever he murdered his victims, he had no clothes on.
Oh, yeah.
He was built like Patrick Bateman in American Psycho. He was built like
buff.
But whenever he murdered anybody, he had to take all his clothes off first.
Yeah.
Oh, no evidence.
I think there was more to it than that.
And then with like Chuck, you had Silent Rage, which is like a pretty, I like it. I think it's pretty darn good. But I like it when they sort of went into the horror realm a little bit,
kind of blurred the lines a little bit. I mean, even we mentioned Cobra earlier, wasn't too far
Yeah.
off of that. I mean, you got this giant cult of people that are, with these big battle axe looking things that are out murdering people. I mean, it's kind of like The Purge meets, an action movie. I don't know. I guess the Purge is an action movie kind of. But
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but I know what you mean. It was like, action and mixed with like it's not on a level of 7 as far as the sophistication of the serial killer, but
right.
it's kind of like that, It's for sure. Yeah. Professor says he battled naked like Beowulf. Yeah. Well, he didn't really battle. He did some horrible things to some ladies, but
yeah, there wasn't much fighting going on.
Yeah, that's a good one. And then Professor also said Shamu getting revenge against Dumbledore. Yeah. Good.
If you would sell it like that, I'd probably get more people to watch it these days.
Yeah, sure. Right.
But
so any other thoughts about the film?
I feel like we've covered it almost front to back. I mean, I know we left out a lot in the middle, so people who could watch it could have something to enjoy. But like I said, I was thoroughly impressed and very happy that I don't know how I didn't get to this movie at some point. It seems like it should have been higher up on my list of things, but I think somehow it just kind of got like lost in the shuffle for a lot of people. And I'm glad that Kino's put it out because it's hopefully have a bit of a resurgence for those who haven't seen it, like myself.
Right. Yeah. And I would just say go in a little bit open-minded, think Western fantasy. Like in 6 months from now, like I could watch this or I could watch Death Hunt, probably depending on my mood. You know what I mean? If I'm in the mood for more of a straightforward action, adventure, chase movie, I'll watch Death Hunt. If I'm in the mood for something that has a fantasy element, I'll watch this. But it's almost like depends on what you're kind of in the mood for, I think.
Well, or if you want to see Charles Bronson, go to an ashram, just watch the Stone Killers.
Right. Yep.
Nothing like Charles Bronson at an ashram.
You just like saying the word ashram.
I do like saying the word ashram. I do.
Professor says you guys sold me on watching this, so it shall get added to the movie hunt list. Yes, Professor, you've got to watch it. Yeah. If people have seen like the 10 or 15 Bronson movies that come to mind, there's just a treasure trove more. Some of them you got to say, okay, the caveat is this one's more of a detective movie. This one's more of a drama. This one's more of a fantasy, but they're all good and he's always good. I mean,
and I think probably the best gateway for people to kind of get into, I know Death Wish is the one that people think of, but I really believe that Hard Times was probably one of his best movies that he made.
Yeah.
And if you like Rocky or like any kind of an underdog kind of movie like that, it's so good. Like, and I mean, I love Bronson anyway, but that one is a great one for people to start with if they've never seen it.
It also has he's surrounded in that one by another great cast too, even all the small roles like Strother Martin, and it also has a gritty feel, just like this. Like that really felt like you were in what was it, New Orleans during the Depression.
And he doesn't have a mustache, so
he doesn't have a mustache, right?
Does not have a mustache. For once, no, he didn't have a mustache in his early career.
He still had his power. He could still knock out people with one punch, even without the mustache.
That's right.
Well, they were probably worried he was going to kill somebody if he had the mustache. So they,
Oh, right.
Like, you got to tone it down a little, Charlie. He's like, okay, buddy.
So, Laura, what do you think you want to do next for Charles Bronson? Which direction do you think you want to go in?
I mean, I kind of want to watch Death Wish, I think, but then what did you say? Hard Times?
Hard Times is just it's just a really great movie in general. Mm-hmm. Death Wish is a little bit more of a revenge-o-matic kind of situation, and so that one's a little bit more niche, so to speak. And then the further you get into that genre, he's got a lot more to dig into. But like of the Death Wish movies, then you have to jump to part 3 where it's him versus the entire gang element in New York all by himself with a rocket launcher and a submachine gun or whatever.
Well,
but
eventually
John Wick kind of.
Well, eventually he teams up with Ed Lauder again.
Yeah.
Right. In one of those, and there's a scene where it's almost like a video game. They're running down the street, people out of windows.
Wow.
It's pretty wild. But the first one, even that, like the original Death Wish, there's some nuance there because his character is a conscientious objector. So he's not a violent person. So that was the smart thing about that movie, I think. You know,
he was an architect who was basically a pacifist. His wife and daughter get in a bad way, and he decides to take back the streets. Yeah. And then he becomes a superhero. It's kind of like the Die Hard situation, you know, where it starts out he's just a regular old guy, Joe Schmo, and then by the end of it he's launching motorcycles into helicopters.
Hey, you know, I hope I don't really know, but I'm pretty sure his kids and his family ended up being well taken care of. He seemed like he was pretty smart, pretty serious, you know, about the whole. He was always well prepared. He took the whole thing seriously, you know, and hopefully, you know, they're all set. I would imagine they are. I never read anything that would indicate otherwise. So so you can forgive him for Death Wish 5. I have no problem with that. Be in Death Wish 5, you know, buy your kids a house. The
crackdown? Oh, wait, no, sorry. Part 5 where he's fighting the fashion industry. I mean, not even joking.
That's funny.
Oh, it's wild.
But he was much older then, you know, like he was salt and peppery and not quite as in good a shape. And
so he has to fight the fashion industry instead of like the mafia or something.
you figured it out.
Yeah.
Funny.
But yeah, no, he's got a great filmography. So there we'll eventually get down there. We just, you know, it's only so many hours in the day, unfortunately.
Yeah, right. Definitely, for sure.
Joel could talk to you about this for years. So
yeah, I'm probably gonna do Violent City next, I think. I've never seen that. That's an Italian one, I believe. So,
yep, I've seen that one.
Yeah. I did enjoy Riders on the Rain. It was very interesting. I'll just put it that way, but I did enjoy it overall. Yeah.
They're definitely a different flavor from the American stuff. For
really,
sure.
Definitely different for sure. Yeah. So you guys have anything coming up like immediately on the channel? Anything? I know you kind of gave us the rundown in the beginning.
Our most recent thing that we're doing now is every Friday. Since we've built up such a catalog of Dollar Store Drive-In now, we're just finished recording episode 86. Right. There you go. We decided to start putting the old episodes on YouTube for people who don't either have access to the other channels or miss them when they were originally aired, because we record an episode every week. So whenever they never do reruns unless they've only done a rerun like once, I think, in the 86 episodes. So they're just kind of sitting there. So we decided every Friday we're going to release a new episode of the original run. And so episode 2 comes out this Friday. We did episode 1 last week. And so anybody who wants to go back and revisit, see how it all started and see where we are now, there you go.
Exactly.
Awesome. Yeah. Very cool. Yeah, we'll definitely look forward to checking those out. And these are movies that are maybe not necessarily from the Dollar Tree, but they're of that type. Is that pretty much?
What's the criteria?
Yeah, so it needs to be under $5.
Okay.
It needs to be a horror, sci-fi, or thriller genre, and it needs to be a movie that we've never seen before.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah.
We've only broken those rules on our 50th episode. We watched the Newlydeads movie, and the Trauma film, and
we just had a Halloween special.
We did a Halloween special. We talked about our favorite Halloween movies, or ones that are kind of maybe not as well known.
Oh, that was good. Yeah, no, I enjoyed that one. Yeah, you definitely had some really good ones on there for sure.
That was fun.
Because I'm always looking to add a few every year. This year I had, I went away for 12 days right before Halloween.
Yep.
Kind of disrupted my my plans and everything.
Your flow.
Yeah, I mean, I did get to go on a ghost tour in Scotland. That was pretty cool.
Fun.
Yeah. That was pretty
I gotta admit, I'm a little jealous.
I'm a lot jealous.
Well, we're talking about doing possibly doing a Christmas one, or a Christmas horror.
And then our 100th episode, we might be doing something special.
We've got something we're percolating right now with I can't get into too much because nothing's official yet, but the 100th episode might be something that
we might be doing it in a different location than what we normally do.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
That's all we're going to say for now, because we got to figure out exactly what the logistics are, but we had an offer where we might not be able to turn down. So
yeah.
Oh, cool. Very cool. Yeah, all right. Well, definitely we'll look out for that. We'll look out for some Christmas content. I love Christmas horror movies as well. And the professor says he is sub to you guys, so watch out for the crazy new follower. Yes.
Excellent. Thank
Aw,
you, sir.
thank you.
And everybody check out Professor Macabro's channel. He does some awesome content himself.
Good name.
All right, guys. Well, we'll wrap it up. You guys just sit tight for a second. I'll just end the stream. I'll be right back. But everybody check out the Newlydeads channel and take a chance and check out White Buffalo. I think you'll find it entertaining.
Yep.